Welcome to JK Tells a Story, where real-life dramas unfold. Sit back and enjoy today's tale. Grant Holloway experienced the most terrible day imaginable. It's not every day your beloved wife of 23 years tells you she's going out with other men. Starting tonight. Grant sat quietly at the kitchen table, gripping a glass of Woodford Reserve bourbon. For 10 minutes, he didn't drink a drop of the amber liquid. He just sat there, staring ahead blankly, not really seeing or hearing anything, but definitely feeling a sharp ache deep within him. Grant knew no amount of antacid could relieve the pain gnawing at his stomach. He'd heard tales of other men's wives mentioning going out with other men, but he'd always dismissed it as nothing more than urban legend. How could a woman assume her devoted husband would accept her dating someone else? Other men? He couldn't fathom how a woman could be so callous toward her own husband, so blatantly selfish in her desires. This occurred on a Monday, yet it had been a pleasant day at Grant's workplace in downtown Columbus. He'd left around 5 in high spirits, whistling as he entered their 2-story colonial in Upper Arlington. Still feeling cheerful, he discovered his wife seated at the kitchen table, enjoying a glass of Merlot alongside his favorite bourbon. Taking his usual spot, he set down his briefcase, poured 3 fingers of the liquid, and settled into his chair. "What's on your mind, Diane?" Grant inquired, noting a sly grin on her face. She met his gaze squarely, her grin slightly mischievous. What he discerned in her eyes wasn't promising. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Do you reckon I've been a good wife and mother all these years?" she asked, completely composed. Grant furrowed his brow, aware of his introspective nature. She could almost see the gears turning in his head before he replied, "Yes, I believe so. And do you think I deserve some form of recognition for it?" she continued in the same impassive tone. Grant took a few more moments to ponder the question carefully. "So should I expect a reward for doing what's expected of a good husband and father? Why are you even asking me this, Diane?" he snapped irritably. "Grant, today I'd like to go out on a date with another man," she stated calmly, as serene as a lake on a perfect morning. Grant was grateful to be seated. He felt a surge of bile creeping up his throat. His mind was like an erased chalkboard, utterly blank as he struggled to process her request. To go on a date with another man? Diane regarded her husband with a look that made him feel like a foolish child, and she nodded slowly. "Yes, with another man. It's been 23 years since you and I became exclusive, and I haven't dated anyone else since then. I've been a loyal wife and devoted mother to our children, and I believe I deserve a night out with someone else. Just a chance to experience something new. Not seeking love, but seeking pleasure. Just intimacy," she explained. "I'm 47, and I won't be attractive forever. I want to explore other options while I'm still desirable and can have them at my fingertips." Grant's jaw slowly dropped in disbelief. He knew he had heard his wife correctly, but surely she couldn't be serious, could she? He didn't even need to voice the question. Diane nodded at him as though she could read his thoughts. "Damn," he muttered as she rose from the table and ascended the stairs to change clothes. Descending moments later, Diane looked stunning in a little black dress that hugged her figure. It featured a daring cutout revealing the curve of her collarbone, and it barely reached mid-thigh in length. Her makeup was subtle. A beautiful woman needed little adornment, and her long blonde hair was pulled back into a high ponytail. It was a sight to behold. Diane noticed that at that moment, her husband was completely under her spell. "I won't allow this, Diane," Grant declared, rising from his seat. "I don't know what you're thinking or what you're up to, but you won't go through with this while still being my wife." Diane's bright smile twisted into a bitter grin. "You won't spoil my evening. You can talk tough, but deep down you know you won't divorce me over this. Where else will you find a woman like me? You know it's true. And the kids will be furious with you for tearing our family apart. Toughen up, Grant. Let me enjoy myself for a while, and then it'll just be you and me again growing old together. You love me. You don't want to be alone, while I have plenty of options." A car horn honked outside. Grabbing a small clutch, Diane moved toward Grant, attempting to kiss him goodbye. He recoiled as if jolted by an electric shock, stepping aside. Diane looked momentarily surprised and hurt, then her expression hardened into anger. "I'll be back. Maybe," she mentioned, leaving. He watched in horror as she exited through the door. Could his 23-year marriage really be ending? That's what it seemed like, he pondered. Diane didn't even glance back at him as she departed. Researchers have confirmed a sad but undeniable reality. Individuals blessed with good looks often have an advantage in life over their more average peers. They easily form friendships, attract more attention, and even receive better treatment from teachers. In Diane's case, this proved true and only intensified when she turned 13 and matured physically. She quickly learned that a flutter of her eyelashes and a smile could win over almost any boy she desired. And for those boys who played hard to get, she simply emphasized her physical attributes a little more, sealing the deal. Like virtually every boy she encountered, Grant fell under Diane's charm almost immediately upon meeting her. His family relocated to Columbus just before he started 8th grade at Worthington Middle School. Meeting Diane on his first day of school, he was instantly captivated. Grant, a talented athlete who was popular among his peers, eventually gathered the courage to invite Diane on a date during their freshman year of high school, and she accepted. They began dating and stayed together until the initial weeks of their junior year at Thomas Worthington High School. That's when Diane ended things with the young man to pursue Brett Sullivan, a starting player on the school's football team. At that time, Grant stood at 5'4" and weighed 110 pounds, whereas Brett was 6'2" and 190 pounds. Despite feeling hurt, Grant acknowledged the situation. He understood that Diane was on a different level in terms of looks. In fact, most of the boys at school couldn't compete with her in that regard. Because Diane was romantically involved with a football player, she socialized with the popular crowd at school, while Grant remained one of the many anonymous figures roaming the hallways. He dated and befriended a few selected students but had no interaction with Diane during his school years. He noticed that on the rare occasions they crossed paths, she treated him as if he were a total stranger. Initially angered by this, Grant eventually came to terms with it. By his senior year, Grant had grown 2 inches taller and gained 40 pounds. He was a handsome and athletic young man, though he didn't quite measure up to Diane. But then again, few did. He attended prom with his attractive but not exceptional girlfriend. That night was significant for both of them in ways typical for young couples. Diane was crowned prom queen, while her date Brett was named prom king. Their evening continued after the dance as well, though Diane's experiences weren't new to her. Sometimes she manipulated situations to her advantage. Physical intimacy was always part of the equation for any guy fortunate enough to date Diane. After high school, Grant pursued accounting at The Ohio State University. Over the course of his 4 years there, he dated several girls but didn't engage in any serious relationships. Meanwhile, Diane studied marketing at Ohio University in Athens. She dated numerous men during her college years, even becoming involved with a marketing professor to improve a B to an A. After years of being desired, Diane had become highly adept at the game. Through sheer coincidence, they both landed jobs in Columbus after college. Nearly a year post-graduation, Grant and several co-workers were unwinding on a Friday night at a popular bar and restaurant in the short north when Diane entered with 2 companions. All eyes immediately turned to the striking woman in the short green dress with a plunging neckline. Diane hardly acknowledged the attention. By then, it had become routine for her. "Who's that goddess?" Steve Brennan exclaimed to the entire table of co-workers. Without pause, Grant instinctively responded, "Ladies and gentlemen, meet Diane Carmichael, goddess and my middle school sweetheart." Every head at the table turned from the woman to Grant, many gaping in surprise. "Do you know her?" one incredulously asked. Grant winced, disliking any attention drawn to himself. "We were about 14. Once high school started, I became invisible and she ignored me for all 4 years," he muttered quietly. "So, got any juicy stories from back then?" quipped one of the women at the table, prompting laughter from the group. This caught Diane and her friend's attention. For a moment, she thought she recognized one of the men at the table, but she wasn't certain. The trio took a seat nearby, with Diane facing the table of the vaguely familiar man. "Dude, why not go over and say hi?" Steve urged. "You're practically drooling," joked Casey Gardell, another colleague. "She acted like she didn't know me for 4 years. I don't get why she'd remember me now," Grant muttered, nodding in agreement with several others. Meanwhile, Diane observed the man while enjoying her meal. Then she snapped her fingers and pointed at him. "It's not wise, Diane," cautioned one of her friends. "Pointing at someone in a restaurant could lead to trouble in certain places." She paid no heed to her friend's comment. "I'll be back shortly," she declared. "I need to greet an old friend." Diane practically leaped from her chair and strode over to Grant's table. "Grant, hello. So happy to see you," Diane exclaimed as she approached him. Grant rolled his eyes at his friends before turning to face his former classmate with a forced smile. "Diane, it's nice to see you," Grant responded, almost devoid of emotion, rising from his seat. Diane closed the distance between them and tenderly kissed Grant on the lips, placing her hands on his shoulders. Their colleagues sat in disbelief. Grant, too, was taken aback. Diane noticed and flashed him a smile that wasn't entirely genuine. She felt at ease playing this game, knowing he couldn't reciprocate. "Let's head back to our table. I'll introduce you to my friends," she suggested, taking his hand and practically pulling him along. He spent most of the evening with Diane and her 2 friends before leaving. Diane took his phone, added her number, and kept his for herself. Diane found it intriguing that Grant appeared indifferent to her. It was a new experience for her. He was polite in the restaurant but divided his attention equally between her and her friends throughout the evening. Though she kissed him several times, he never responded. On Monday morning, Grant's co-workers at the bar questioned him about his interaction with the stunning woman and were shocked when he revealed he stayed at the bar for only an hour before heading home. "She's impressive, but she's out of my league by about 14 levels. I get it," he grumbled. "I don't need that kind of drama." Grant encountered a similar distress in the parking lot at his workplace 2 days later. As he left work, he muttered to himself upon spotting her waiting by his car, though he reluctantly acknowledged that, dressed in a form-fitting outfit, she exuded undeniable allure. "Why didn't you call?" she murmured softly as he approached. Grant fought the urge to widen his eyes as he scanned Diane's figure like a starving man glimpsing his first meal in weeks. Her low-cut top was unbuttoned down to her collarbone, and the hem hovered just above her waist. "Damn," he muttered under his breath as she leaned in to wrap her arms around his neck and plant a kiss on his lips. He found himself powerless as she pressed against him, his hand instinctively slipping around her waist. The kiss extended indefinitely. After what felt like minutes, they parted, and Diane readjusted her dress. Several colleagues, stunned, quickly departed in their cars. They dined at a restaurant outside the city center, enjoying their meal. Though Diane frequently tugged at her dress, both Grant and the young waitress appeared entertained by her struggle. Grant remained cautious of Diane, but in the presence of a seductively dressed woman, he was defenseless. His best hope was to make a good impression that night. Later, as they spent time together, Grant realized this woman was everything he'd always envisioned. If this was his only chance, he had to make it count. Emotion and attraction blended together that evening. They lay facing each other, locking eyes. Diane grinned. "I made a huge mistake years ago," she whispered. "You're incredible. Who knew? If only I'd realized. We've wasted so many years." Diane recognized potential when she saw it. Though Grant didn't match her in looks, he was handsome, fit, and seemed destined for success. And he was attentive. "I thought she was speaking to herself," Grant admitted. Despite Grant's reservations, primarily about her self-centeredness, their relationship flourished. While her physical beauty was evident, he gradually fell for the person Diane truly was. "I purchased an engagement ring, but before proposing, we sat down to discuss our views on fidelity," Grant stated as they settled at the table for a serious conversation. "What occurred in the past remains there. The same applies to me, but I need clarity about the future. Moving forward, I want full exclusivity between us. No exceptions. If you doubt your ability to commit to this for us, I need to know now. He placed a small black box on the table between them. Diane locked eyes with Grant, then glanced at the box. I will never betray my husband. Never, she declared. As Grant opened the box, he recalled her words. Apparently, his wife didn't consider this betrayal, given the advance warning. He knew that wasn't the case. She hoped he would interpret it that way because if he didn't, he wasn't truly accepting it. Grant knew Diane had countless opportunities to stray over the years, yet as far as he knew, she'd rejected them all as a faithful wife should. She was a perfect 10, no, a 12, while he considered himself a 6 at best, leaving plenty of room for someone more physically compatible to catch her eye. Assuming she didn't have an affair I'm unaware of, she's been a true wife for 23 years, Grant pondered. He should have been grateful for those years, but he wasn't. When he said, I love you, he meant forever, not just a paltry 23 years. In fact, not a week went by without Diane receiving proposals, not just from men. She knew she wasn't just beautiful. She was extraordinary, a rare goddess among the merely beautiful. When God crafted his wife, he had an exceptional day, Grant always joked. Initially, Diane would inform Grant whenever she faced unwanted attention, aiming for full transparency. Yet after a few years, Grant assured her that he trusted her enough not to disclose everything. He only wished to be informed if the unwelcome advances persisted after her initial rejection, so he could intervene if necessary. Conversely, women rarely approached Grant, partly because he used his wedding ring almost like a shield. Within moments of meeting a woman, Grant would enthusiastically discuss his wife and children, effectively dousing any potential interest. Unbeknownst to him, this behavior often deterred potential flirtations. Diane remained oblivious to how her husband's actions shut down advances. Their almost fairy tale marriage endured for 22 years, until Amber Sinclair entered their professional realm, working at the same public relations firm as Diane. Described akin to a classic beauty, Amber captivated with her dark hair, big brown eyes, and ample figure, drawing men like a magnet. Despite her potential at superior solutions, she remained a loyal assistant to Diane, who was deemed the most attractive woman around. At 42, Amber had been married for 15 years but professed her dissatisfaction with matrimony. She openly shared tales of her extramarital activities, painting vivid pictures of encounters with various partners. So you've never strayed since you got hitched? You seem like a rock-solid woman, but I find it hard to believe you don't crave something more, Amber remarked during a coffee break at work. Well, I'm not saying I'm not curious, but I'd never betray Grant, Diane responded. In recent months, she'd noticed a decline in attention from men at bars and restaurants, with younger women often receiving the looks she once commanded, sparking doubts about her allure. Let's play the what-if game. What if your hubby gave you the green light? Then what? Amber inquired. Diane's expression revealed she had never contemplated such a scenario before. Thoughts raced through her mind. I suppose if I had his blessing, it would change everything, Diane admitted with a mischievous grin. Ever thought about asking for it? Amber suggested. They say everything worth having is worth asking for. Diane had never considered this possibility before. Her face flickered with intrigue before darkening with uncertainty. He'd never grant me permission. Never, Diane asserted. Should I do everything for you? Asked Amber. Implicit permission. Tell him, then take what you want regardless of his answer. Convince him he loves you enough to allow it, that you can navigate this together. Love isn't the issue. You love only him. Grant stirred at the sound of a car nearing the house, realizing it was past 3 in the morning. Glancing at the half-empty bottle of Woodford Reserve, he quipped to Diane as she entered, "Great night, huh?" He scrutinized the disheveled figure his wife had become. Hair mussed, absent makeup, rumpled clothes. She seemed more smug than remorseful. "I could say the same to you," she retorted. "You didn't have to wait up, you know. I'm going to bed. And you? Maybe. But never again with you," he shot back. Diane shot him a look of disdain and ascended the stairs. Grant poured more bourbon and resumed watching ESPN. He spent the night in his recliner, stomach grumbling. By 9, he prepared breakfast. As he ate, he heard the shower in the master bathroom. Typically, Diane would descend in a robe, hair wrapped. Today she emerged impeccably dressed and made up. "Did you leave me anything to eat?" she asked. "I made coffee, but you can cook for yourself. And since you're dressed at home, now's the time to talk," he stated firmly. Diane was surprised by Grant's stoicism. She had expected him to rage irrationally, easy to manipulate. Rational Grant made conversation more challenging. She realized. "Don't you want to hear about last night?" she asked meekly. Grant detected her air of superiority. Did she truly believe he wanted to hear about being betrayed? "Hardly. I want to know your vision for our marriage moving forward," Grant replied evenly. "As I mentioned yesterday, I plan to explore other men over several years. Just physical intimacy. No love. I love only you, but I want the thrill of something new. You're amazing, but I crave variety. I want to experience other men while I'm still desirable. I've devoted 23 years to you without a thought of betrayal. I seek the excitement of the unknown. You're incredible, but I desire some diversity for a while. Then we'll ride into the sunset together, and I'll be grateful for the experience, spoiling you exclusively for the rest of our days," Diane explained. Grant listened intently as Diane spoke, preparing toast and jam for his coffee. He found her manner of buttering toast while discussing his life's most crucial matters rather detached. He had numerous questions. "Is it all about seeking variety? Am I insufficient for you?" he inquired with a strained voice. Before she could respond, he interjected. "So you propose an open marriage for a while, then returning to monogamy later? Does this imply I can see other people too?" Diane struggled to stifle her giggles. The thought of her sweet, reserved husband asking another woman out was simply amusing. Grant was the most earnest about marriage of any man she had known. However, if this was what it took for him to theoretically agree, then yes, she affirmed. "Naturally, I expect it to be purely physical for you as well." Grant raised his eyebrows and shrugged. Diane didn't grasp the significance of this gesture, but she had an inkling. "Would you like to go out with Amber? She's a nice woman from my office." "I'm sure she'd be delighted," Diane proposed, knowing her friend would be willing to help her achieve her goal of remaining married while pursuing other partners. Grant looked perplexed. The lustful 21-year-old bachelor in him desired Amber, but the responsible 47-year-old married man knew he couldn't indulge. "I'd be happy to go out with Amber, but no, honey, thank you. That'd make me as much a cheater as you were last night," he stated. Diane's initially smiling face twisted into a grimace of anger. "I am not a cheater," she shouted. "Well, if you say so, honey," he responded, far more seriously than she anticipated. "But I still don't agree to this." "You'll come around, honey, because I'm doing it regardless," she retorted. On Monday morning around 11 o'clock, Amber entered Diane's office and noticed her discontent. "To hell with that close-minded fool," Diane muttered, shutting the door behind Amber. "Darn it. He even turned down a date with you." Amber frowned. "I didn't realize I was on the table, but forget it. How could he resist this?" she remarked, gesturing to her body. "How was the date? Did you have fun? Or did Grant spoil it?" "The date was amazing," Diane gushed. "God, it's been ages since I've been with another man. I definitely appreciated the change. Who do you think I should try next?" They both burst into laughter. Diane found solace in the absence of immediate divorce papers. With minimal interaction between them, she opted not to inquire about Grant's intentions. Unbeknownst to his wife, Grant wasn't eager to rush into divorce. He held on to hope that she'd come to her senses and halt her foolish plans. He believed forgiveness and moving past her transgression were possible if she abandoned her reckless pursuits. His optimism grew when Diane skipped a date the following week. Despite their continued bedroom separation and strained communication, he saw a glimmer of hope. However, on the next Friday evening, Diane was once again impeccably dressed, seemingly prepared for a date. Are you seriously considering this again? With the same guy? Or are you eyeing someone else this week? Grant queried sharply. Damn. Grant, did you not hear anything I said? This isn't about you. It's about me fulfilling desires before I lose my allure. It's not that I want you any less. I just crave more variety. You get it? I'm constantly pursued, and I just want to indulge, but I'll always come back to you, she explained. What if I don't want you to come back? I won't share you. I won't stand by while you enjoy yourself. This isn't who I am. I won't wait as you test half the men in town. One date maybe I could stomach, but twice? It's utter disrespect. Betrayal. Spending all night out. We're finished. That's not my purpose on this earth, he asserted. Wah, 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 she mocked, wiggling her fingers. You don't want to lose me. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Earlier that week, Grant instructed his lawyer to prepare all the necessary documents, hoping they wouldn't be needed. He intended to call his wife Monday morning, but first he had to inform his daughters. When he called them that evening, neither Bethany, 21, nor Kelsey, 19, appeared outwardly surprised. But upon speaking with both, he realized Bethany may have had an inkling. So you knew she was heading toward this disaster and didn't tell me? He exclaimed over the phone. You don't think I deserve to know what was happening? Please, Daddy, I was in a tough spot. Either way, one of you wouldn't have been pleased with me. Plus, it's her body. It's not yours to control, and if she wants to, stop. Don't go on, Grant interjected. I get that she's put you in a tough spot, but don't tell me she can do whatever she pleases with her body whenever she pleases, because this body belongs to her. Her vows abolish discussion about her body. I understand, but... She started before cutting herself off. Damn, Daddy. I'm sorry, Daddy, she murmured. When Diane came in at 2 in the morning, Grant wasn't around. Despite being an hour earlier than her last outing, she seemed a bit more disheveled. The evening had been intense, and by night's end she could barely move. Overall, it was a fantastic night. She figured she could repeat the experience sometime. Receiving divorce papers at her office on Monday morning left Diane shocked and embarrassed. She broke into tears and rushed to the ladies' room, where Amber found her shortly after. You should have expected him to serve you, Amber remarked. He's trying to hurt you back. Men can be so childish, seeking retaliation. Give him a week to stew alone. He'll come crawling back. Pulling herself together, Diane returned to her desk, grabbed her phone, and dialed her husband's number immediately. How could you do this to me in front of everyone at the office? I know you're hurting, but I deserve better, she practically yelled into the phone. After 23 years, don't I deserve more than you deciding on your own to open our marriage? If I'm not right for you, couldn't you have given me a heads up so we could part ways like adults? I don't want civility. I don't want a divorce. I still love you, she sobbed. I still love you. But every time you sleep with someone else, that love fades, he growled. My love isn't bottomless like yours. I always believed that. Maybe we were both wrong. Despite Grant's resistance, Diane pursued preventing the divorce. Her lawyer arranged marriage counseling, with Grant unwillingly participating. As they entered the consultant's office, they were surprised to find Lillian Kaminsky waiting. Data on marriage counselors suggests most aim to reconcile divorcing couples, often with a bias favoring women. The consultant began, Let's start with the basics. Mrs. Holloway, did you indeed inform your husband about your intention to date other men for a few years? Grant tried to hide his smirk. Diane struggled to conceal her shock. Yes, I did, she replied quietly. That's what I want. I don't need him to do it for me. It won't affect our marriage. We'll conclude here, the consultant declared. Apologies for the inconvenience, Mrs. Holloway. I'll inform the judge and put an end to this charade. But, Diane stuttered. Honey, if you thought for a moment that what you did to your husband would work with me, then you're delusional. You should be ashamed of yourself, but evidently you have no shame. Frankly, you disgust me, Miss Kaminsky said. During the following month, Diane reached out to Grant multiple times daily while he settled into a small apartment in German Village. He ignored her calls and texts. Eventually, she enlisted their daughter's help, prompting them to call him. "Dad, you still love her. If she stopped seeing other men, would you reconsider?" Kelsey inquired during one of these conversations. "She's still at it, even after I filed?" Grant asked, his voice trembling. Silence followed, confirming his suspicions. Kelsey didn't call again or urge him to reconcile. Grant was taken aback by how swiftly news of his impending divorce spread, especially among single women at work. Several women expressed sympathy for his marital woes, including those who were mutual friends with him and his wife. Grant wasn't naive. He recognized that not all their condolences were purely compassionate. Natalie Ross, a longtime friend of his wife's, called to express her condolences and almost overtly offered him emotional support. Grant was surprised by her open flirtation, considering she had never shown interest in him throughout their acquaintance. "I wouldn't pursue a friend's husband. That's just wrong," she assured him. "But now that you're single, things are different. I'm interested in you." Surprised. "I'm flattered, but I'm not officially single yet, Natalie. We won't start anything until after the divorce. I may be old-fashioned, but I won't cheat," Grant insisted. "You're such a Boy Scout. That's one of the things I admire about you. Can you at least set me up on a date once you're free?" Natalie requested. "Of course," Grant agreed. "But I don't want to disrupt your friendship with Diane. You've been friends for years. I appreciate your consideration, but I shouldn't let an opportunity pass just because it's unconventional," Natalie replied. "Maybe I'll give you a call when I'm off the leash," Grant joked. Natalie, an attractive woman standing at 5'6" with a toned physique and shoulder-length auburn hair, was certainly appealing to Grant, who found it surprising that she showed interest in him. True to his word, Grant contacted Natalie on the day his divorce was finalized. They went out for dinner and to a local jazz club that Saturday evening. Natalie noticed Grant's unease and remarked on it. "I feel like a clueless teenager," he confessed. "It's been over 24 years since I went on a date with someone other than Diane." "Are you telling me the protection in your wallet is the same one from your last date before Diane?" she teased. "Should I have brought one? Damn, I didn't even think about it." "Well, I'm definitely out of practice," Grant admitted. At the end of the night, Natalie kissed him gently, leaving them both feeling content. Grant promised to call again. Removing his wedding ring on the day his divorce was finalized didn't seem significant to Grant, but apparently it was a big deal to single women. Several female coworkers noticed the absence of his ring and commented on it, leading to a noticeable increase in flirting in the office. This was uncharted territory for Grant, and one day during lunch, he confided in his best friend at work about the sudden attention. "Wow, there are so many stunning women in this office. How did I not notice this before?" Grant exclaimed. "You, my friend, were the epitome of a henpecked man," Robert Mendoza remarked. "You were so head over heels for her that you didn't even see other women as attractive. Sure, she's beautiful, but you let her control you, and maybe that was part of the issue. She's always testing boundaries. There's value in that, and you were so conditioned, emitting such a vibe that not a single woman even glanced your way." In the initial month post-divorce, Grant went on 4 dates, 2 with Natalie. While he hadn't yet become intimate with any of them, that wasn't his aim. By the second month, demand remained high, and he ended up becoming closer with 2 women. Grant's daughters, who had been more in touch with their mother than him lately, repeatedly heard her claim that while she could attract any man effortlessly, their father struggled to find companionship, let alone a steady girlfriend. Feeling sorry for their father, they paid him a surprise visit one Saturday morning about 2 months after the divorce. Grant wasn't pleased about being awakened at 8:36, especially after entertaining his guest late the previous night. Veronica, a vibrant 25-year-old, was the daughter of a friend who'd needed a reliable escort for her wedding. The evening went so well that they decided to continue it at Grant's apartment. Just as Veronica was asleep in his bed, Grant, clad in a robe, opened the door to find his daughters smiling with bags of breakfast goodies. "What's going on?" he asked, surprised as they entered. "Hi, Dad. Can your two favorite daughters join you for breakfast?" Bethany chirped as they unpacked the bags. After exchanging kisses on the cheek, Grant led them to the kitchen table. They were midway through the bagels when Veronica emerged from the bedroom in one of Grant's shirts, partially unbuttoned and likely nothing else. "Sorry, didn't know we had guests, babe," Veronica said. Both girls blushed as Veronica poured herself coffee. No, Veronica. These are my daughters, Bethany and Kelsey," Grant clarified, pointing to each. "We were having breakfast. Bagels with salmon." Veronica giggled. She brushed against Grant's arm and settled into a chair beside him. The four engaged in casual conversation until Bethany broached the topic of Grant's recent interactions with Diane. His mood shifted, marking the first time he felt bothered in days. Until that moment, he believed it nearly impossible to be upset around Veronica, despite her being a bit too much for his 48-year-old self. "I have to admit, Dad, we thought you might be missing Mom already," Kelsey remarked. "We know she misses you, but we thought when you were gone she'd be living her best life. I know I was her anchor, though. She's been entertaining them two at a time in our old bed, Dad." Bethany frowned and exclaimed, "Seriously, consider this for a moment. How many different guys has she been with since you two broke up? And those two I knew about before I left." Both girls blushed and cast their gaze downward. "Wow, if it's 2 guys a month for, 10 months, that's 20 different guys. With 3 guys a month? 30. For me, that's a lot of guys," Veronica remarked. If looks could eliminate, Grant's daughters would have put Veronica 6 feet under in seconds. She was well aware of this. "Hey, don't blame me if a woman can't keep her standards high," Veronica quipped. Children, let's not ruin my good weekend," Grant intervened. "Sorry," all 3 young women muttered simultaneously. "So are you two an item?" Bethany asked Veronica quietly. "You don't look much older than me. Your dad said we're the same age, but don't worry, I won't ever be your stepmother. We're just friends. He's a great guy. He was my date at the wedding reception last night, and he's kind of a hottie. Did I mention he's a great guy? Well, we can agree he's a great guy, though we know he can be a bit of an idiot at times," Bethany remarked. "And yeah, he's kind of attractive for someone old enough to be your dad." Now it was Veronica's turn to blush. Grant blushed too. "Hey babe, remember we have lunch with the newlyweds' families at the hotel at noon. I need to shower and grab some clothes from my place before we go," Veronica reminded. Both daughters rolled their eyes at their father. "Mom, she's my age," Bethany informed her mother during lunch a few weeks later. And it didn't seem like a one-time thing. They spent quite a while together. They enjoyed each other's company. "I don't think he'll come crawling back to you anytime soon. No, you just caught him on a good day. He probably helped a friend's kid and got lucky. She's probably a loose woman who will sleep with anyone. Your dad's a great guy, but he's not a player," Diane retorted. "And somewhere along the line you decided it was all about you. Was it worth it?" For the first time, Diane's face betrayed the strain of what she had to endure. From Amber's perspective, everything sounded much rosier than it actually was. She couldn't tell her daughter that the experiences were ordinary, but no, it wasn't worth it. Nor could she admit that she never imagined Grant doing anything other than moping over his beautiful ex-wife. She was so self-absorbed that she failed to realize a handsome, if not stunning, man with great qualities, intelligence, and a stable job could be highly desirable in the dating scene. Not just for middle-aged women she knew. Post-divorce, Grant dated several women, including her old friend Natalie, and now with some young woman the same age as their eldest daughter. Instead of wallowing at home, he went on dates like a single 20-year-old and garnered more attention than he deserved. When she discovered her friend was dating her ex, she kept it to herself, assuming it was out of pity. But when the second date happened, she confronted Natalie privately, her voice noticeably raised. "I thought we were friends," Diane exclaimed. "You're supposed to have my back. Women need to support each other." "But he didn't hurt you, Diane. He's a good guy. Amazing, actually. He's everything I look for in a man. Why shouldn't I date Grant? Women are lining up for him." He's prime dating material and he's a true gentleman. Plus, he's wonderful company. I go out with him anytime he asks. How could you push away such a catch? Diane stood in silence, gaping at her friend. She was starting to realize that her error was snowballing. She loved Grant and despised returning to an empty house each day, dreading sleeping alone at night. Grant, on the other hand, never envisioned his life becoming so eventful. He would have been content with his old mundane routine. Yet apart from that, life was treating him well. Work was fulfilling, and his social life was vibrant. He enjoyed the company of women of various ages, with many of his dates leading to deeper connections. He wasn't actively seeking a long-term commitment, but he relished the variety. There was more to life than being married to a beautiful woman. Julia Brennan sported shoulder-length silver hair with streaks of purple, pulled back into a ponytail beneath her Cincinnati Reds baseball cap. Her snug red Reds t-shirt accentuated her athletic figure, while her light blue jeans hugged her frame impressively for a woman of 60. Seated in the left field bleachers at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, she garnered more than her fair share of attention. Among those admiring her was Grant Holloway, the ex-husband of one of Julia's longtime employees, Diane Carmichael. Grant and Julia attended a Reds game as part of a weekend getaway to Cincinnati. Julia had known Diane professionally for over 15 years, having been her supervisor at the public relations firm. She'd met Grant at several company functions where he accompanied his then-wife, and she always found him to be handsome and pleasant. Julia reminisced. She knew that Grant and Diane had divorced about 2 years ago, while Julia herself had been widowed for around 5 years. Her husband had passed away in a car accident. During this time, she had only been on one date, after which she decided to obtain Grant's phone number. Yes, Grant remembered her. He found it hard to forget a woman who exuded both elegance and beauty. He would be interested in having dinner with her. Absolutely, he agreed. This occurred several months prior to the present moment. Their initial date unfolded at a high-end restaurant followed by a concert at the Cincinnati Music Hall, with Julia providing tickets. The evening concluded with a kiss at her doorstep. Their second date involved a Saturday hike during which Grant took intermittent breaks, prompting giggles from Julia. It turned out she and her late husband were avid hikers and climbers. Despite Grant's belief in his fitness, he discovered he was mistaken. He also learned of Julia's toned physique for her age and captivating gray eyes. The date culminated in a tender evening on Julia's living room rug, following a passionate session on her sofa. Her blend of sophistication and girl-next-door charm intrigued him. Julia enthusiastically agreed when Grant suggested a weekend of sightseeing in Cincinnati as their third date. On their first outing, Julia mentioned to Grant that she had no intention of informing Diane about their relationship. While she wouldn't deny it if asked, she had no intention of broadcasting the fact. Julia also informed Grant that Diane had informed her colleagues that she and Grant were divorcing due to irreconcilable differences. Grant reiterated the same story he had told others. Diane had been unfaithful with at least 2 other men, without delving into further detail. In the 2 years post-divorce, Grant had fostered several robust relationships and relished what he deemed an exceptional social life. His partners held him in high regard, with some aspiring to be more than just companions. While Grant aimed to rebuild trust in women and pursue marriage eventually, Diane had different intentions. As she had disclosed to her then-husband before their initial date, she sought only physical gratification. Though still alluring to many, she wasn't seeking emotional connections like most of her companions. This fundamental contrast between the ex-partners posed an issue. For Bethany, deeply involved in wedding preparations funded by her content father, when Diane suggested to Bethany that both parents attend the wedding unaccompanied to ease tension, Bethany readily agreed and relayed the idea to her father over lunch that week. "Is this your brilliant idea or your mother's?" Grant inquired sternly. "I intend to bring a lady with me. I'm footing the bill for this affair, and I plan to enjoy it with my companion. Have you taken dance lessons as I have specifically for my wedding? It's rather endearing." No buts, Bethany. She's evidently trying to pressure me, acting selfishly to sway the situation in her favor. "I'm sorry, but I won't attend my daughter's wedding without a date. If you lack the courage to inform her, then I certainly will. She can come alone or with a companion of her choice. I'll bring mine, Grant asserted. Understood, Dad. I'll talk to her. I appreciate your perspective and am eager to see you dance. But could you perhaps bring someone closer to your age? I can accommodate that, but do watch Veronica and me dance. Grant beamed, receiving an equally wide smile in return. Grant escorted Natalie Ross to the wedding, despite their disagreement over the sea green dress he purchased for her. Grant reasoned that as the father of the bride, clad in a tuxedo, she required a new dress, which he gladly financed. And I'm aware it necessitates shoes, he added with a grin. Walking his eldest daughter down the aisle proved to be one of the most bittersweet experiences for Grant. It was everything other fathers had described, yet he acknowledged it was a wonderful day. He, Natalie, and his children reveled in the festivities, dancing late into the night. The only discordant moment arose when his ex-wife arrived with her own date. While Grant remained indifferent, the man spent much of the wedding leering at Grant and later at several women, behaving like a boorish drunk. Upon Bethany's request, Diane swiftly escorted the man out, visibly embarrassed. In a brief encounter in the restroom, Diane confronted Natalie, accusing her of stealing her man. Natalie calmly denied the accusation, stating Grant had divorced Diane before they began dating. Diane fell silent, allowing Natalie to exit without further altercation, unwilling to mar the family's special day. A few months after the wedding, Kelsey visited her father and appeared uneasy. Grant observed her for a moment before probing. Okay, Kels, what's up? You've seemed kind of on edge all evening. Kelsey blushed deeply and began to stammer. Grant sensed something was amiss. Dad, you know Mom sometimes talks about reconciling with you, about winning you back once she stops seeing other guys. Did you two, have any closeness or anything? She asked. My personal life isn't your concern, young lady, Grant snapped. But no, I didn't sleep with your mother. And well, the thing is, she has an STD, Dad. I overheard her conversation with her friends, and she mentioned having syphilis. Kelsey disclosed quietly, avoiding her father's gaze. Grant looked surprised, then saddened, as Kelsey watched him from the corner of her eye. I guess you're telling me because you're worried about me, Grant said. But it's standard protocol to inform all potential partners about the disease so they can get tested. I didn't know that. I was just concerned about you, Dad, she replied. I know Mom is still seeing other people. Some of my friends warned me that she's quite promiscuous. It's always awkward when a friend tells you your mom isn't perfect. A few days later, Grant received an unsettling call from Julia. He realized she shared Kelsey's concerns, likely also worrying about her own health. If you're wondering whether I slept with my ex, the answer is a resounding no, Grant assured. Believe me, Julia, I understand your worry, but I can't control my ex's actions. Scandal is the kindest word I've heard about her lately, Julia remarked. In recent months, her extracurricular activities had become sideline gossip. Seems the longer she's single, the more she lets her guard down. Diane used her situation as leverage to win Grant back. Satisfied with her past experiences, 6 months after being declared cured, she plotted her reunion. She still harbored some resentment toward Grant for initiating their divorce, which wasn't her original intent. She assumed he wouldn't dare divorce someone like her, thinking it unlikely he'd find someone of her caliber. Her plan might have succeeded if other women hadn't pursued Grant. Confident in her allure, she couldn't fathom Grant being as drawn to others. I know he's great, but can't these women see he's not on my level? She lamented to Amber one evening as they sipped margaritas, awaiting their dates. Amber encouraged her friend's lifestyle, underestimating Grant's depth, expecting Grant to sulk while she enjoyed herself. Diane and Amber kept tabs on him post-ultimatum, only to find his post-divorce social life rivaled hers. If Diane were honest, she might admit her ex-husband's emotional fulfillment seemed superior. While Grant genuinely enjoyed his dates, Diane confined herself to her circle, though without deeper connections. After her health scare, she noticed a prolonged lull. Maybe it was time for her and Grant to reunite, she mused. Grant was taken aback by the voice on the other end of the line. He hadn't spoken to his ex-wife in almost 2 years. One of his daughters must have given her his new cell phone number. While he hadn't forbidden them from doing so, he made it clear he saw no need for direct communication with her again. "Hi, Grant," she cooed in her sweetest tone. "I think it's time for us to talk. And I thought we agreed not to talk until Paige got married. But since that hasn't happened yet, maybe we'll go back to silence," Grant replied. "Still the same Grant. Still trying to deny that you love me. But deep down you know you want me back," she persisted. "Still the same Diane," he retorted. "You still think everything revolves around you. Look, Grant, I know you're still angry with me, but I truly love you. Maybe I should have just cheated on you and kept it hidden, but that would have been deceitful," she admitted. "It was still cheating, Diane. Just because you told me you were going to do it doesn't make it any less real. You did it because you thought I'd never leave you. Do you think so little of me?" Grant said. "I know you think you're a 10, hell, a 12, but beyond that, you're beautiful. I don't need to live in your shadow. The past few years have shown me I'm more than just the husband of a beautiful woman. Other women want what I have to offer and are willing to reciprocate emotionally. My recent years have been wonderful. Why would I want to date a selfish woman again who clearly doesn't respect me and, no matter what she says, doesn't love me the way I loved her? Loved, in the past tense," he concluded. After hanging up, Grant turned to the woman beside him. "Ready for round 2? He asked Veronica. Veronica eventually found her soulmate and married him, but Natalie and Julia continued their relationship with Grant. He loved both of them in his own way but never remarried. They, too, loved him in their own way, and both women accepted this dynamic. Several years later, both were invited to his second daughter Kelsey's wedding. This displeased Diane, who didn't invite her boyfriend. She complained to her daughter, but Kelsey didn't sympathize. "After me, Bethany and her family, Natalie and Julia are the 2 closest people in Dad's life," Kelsey replied. "They love him for who he is and prioritize him over their own selfish interests, which not everyone can say about themselves. He was yours, and you left him for more physical experiences. Why? Simply because you feared aging and thought he had no other options, that he'd never leave you, not for anyone or anything." Grant was content with his life, even if it wasn't his first choice. He left a situation he deemed unacceptable. Diane's life wasn't one of loneliness and regret. After all, she was still attractive, and beautiful women often just need to show up for men to take notice. Diane was frequently approached and had several short-term relationships. However, none of them blossomed into anything lasting. Reflecting on her choices, Diane regretted telling her then-husband she was leaving him, still unable to accept that Grant had given up on her so easily. How could she have misjudged the situation so severely? She was a 12 out of 10, but he was only a 6. He shouldn't have ended this way. Thank you for your viewing. See you next time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to JK Tells a Story for more tales.